Hello, survivors. Welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. I'm your host, Jeffrey Card, and as you might have noticed, the background's a little bit different today. That's because we are in Seattle, where we are locked down due to the coronavirus, and none of us are coming into the office. So we're going to be doing the stream from my house, but I'm not going to be alone. Now, I couldn't have any guests over to share the camera with me, but remotely, we've got Andy Collins in his house. Hello, Andy.
Hi, everybody.
So did not manage to set up a view that has both of our faces on it, except for the view where we're in the game. So I think maybe I'll just start playing the game while we chat. But Andy here is our lead writer, and he's also the lead of the team that is putting together our content packs. You know, every time we drop new inventory for the bounty broker, he's the one sort of leading the logistical process and parts of the creative process for getting all that stuff into the game. So, if you folks have any questions for Andy, either about the storytelling in State of Decay 2, any part of the storytelling, even when we're doing environmental storytelling in the map, Andy is heavily consulted. He's sort of the keeper of the lore. Or if you have any questions about the bounty broker and content packs, funnel those questions to Andy while we're playing, because he's the expert. Do you feel like I summarized your role on the team well enough, Andy?
Sounds good to me. I want to take a moment to head off the concerns. Brant's fine. Don't worry, everybody. He's monitoring us on the thread. He's just not visually pictured. But we were just talking to him a couple minutes ago. Unless the zombies have stormed into the office in the last 20 minutes, he's fine.
Yeah, and also, during the pre-stream, you had a really, useful message that you know what? I keep wanting to repeat it, but I can't. I think you're the one who's best at expressing it, about sort of our attitude towards the current situation we're all living in.
All right. I'll see if I can conjure it up again. Folks, we're living in strange times right now. I think we all know that. One of the reactions that many people, including the two of us, have to stress in strange times is occasionally to crack a joke about them. You may hear us make light of the current situation, the fact that we're stuck at home and putting up with the various minor stresses that puts on us. Please remember that we do take this very seriously. The fact that we're cracking an occasional joke is a sign that we're trying to bring a little levity to this current hour of your life, but not trying to make light of the very real stresses that many of you are going through. We're fortunate enough to have non-essential but stable jobs that allow us to work from home and continue to support our families. We're aware that that's not true for everybody out there. Our hearts go out for all of those, both in our hometown of Seattle and wherever you are, for those difficulties that you're going through, whether it's personal, professional, or just plain scared about what's going on. We hear you. We believe that this is a very serious situation, but at the same time, for the next 56 minutes or so, we're going to try to help you forget about most of that and enjoy ourselves. And if something we say hits a little too close to home, we're sorry. We don't mean anything by it. Stay safe out there.
So this is why Andy is our lead writer, because he's really good at expressing things like that. And what better way, really, to sort of forget about our troubles during a pandemic than to play a game set in the zombie apocalypse? So that's what we're going to be doing today. We accidentally played on my home profile a couple of weeks ago on the stream. So that's what I've got here, is the game that Brant got started a couple of weeks ago. But one thing, because we've got Andy here, and we're going to be, talking among other things about content packs that might drop in the future and how that's going to work. I figure maybe we'll head over to the bounty broker and see if I can unlock a few more bounties with this particular team. Oh, before I go though, I should check out what's going on in my base. So, getting past the community screen real quick. So Brad has set me up with a bunch of hydroponics, which is really nice. We got one open slot right here, and I think we can afford to set up a forge. So I'm going to do that real quick. It took a lot of materials. Behind my head you can't see it, but looks like I've only got 8 food, so while we're out we should probably be looking for a place to grab food too. But that's what I'm going to be doing while we're chatting here. But so Andy, so you were involved with the map team that built this map, though you are not actually a map builder. What was your role when you were sort of involved in meetings and stuff like that, working out what Providence Ridge was going to be like?
Sure. Early on in the Providence Ridge design process, before we even had that name, I was approached by art director Kevin Punn and the Providence Ridge team lead Chris Vanderleest to contribute to some of the storytelling that we wanted in the map. And when we say storytelling, we don't mean like follow this chain of missions and learn about these characters. We're talking about the stories that the environment tells you. When you go to a place and you see a tableau, a scene maybe of carnage or a scene of tranquility that's clearly arranged and suggests something happened here. Somebody did something. Our game has a lot of those stories in it that we don't necessarily tell you directly. We just lay the groundwork and let you wonder, whether it's a campsite on top of a building or a sign of carnage in a house. That's environmental storytelling. What we wanted to do here was take a little more holistic approach to it. And rather than allow those things to just pop up due to the genius of our artists, we wanted to have a little more organized approach and tackle some specific stories that the environment would showcase throughout Providence Ridge.
So, so did that mean like you were coming up sort of the history of each of the neighborhoods, or
A little bit of that, and a little bit of just, hey, what are the visuals that make sense in a town like this? Like we had a premise of, okay, Providence Ridge is going to be sort of an older northwestern logging community, and we wanted to create a sense of verisimilitude about that community, make it feel real, make it feel lived in, like many of our other towns do. Uh, so we had a lot of discussion about, what does that mean? Thankfully, there were some of us that were able to draw on real world experience for that, whether we've spent time personally in those towns, be it, lovely Forks, Washington out on the peninsula, or maybe, Snoqualmie, a little closer to home. Or we have family members who grew up in them. My dad grew up in tiny little Montesano, Washington, in southwest Washington, very much a small logging town for a very long time. So we were able to draw on those personal experiences and help add little details that made this feel like a real town. For instance, the parade route that is down in, I believe, Preston is the name of the small little community down the sort of the lower left of the map. There's a ruined parade route down there, and that's drawn very directly from the reality that small towns love their festivals. Like every one of them has some kind of celebration that brings the town together. Whether it's harvest time or summertime or spring or winter or what have you. So we've got our sawdust days that are.
I love the name of that too. Is that sounds so like convincing? That would totally be a thing that people had.
That's my dad. Literally, I'm sitting at a baseball game with him last year and say, "Hey, we want to have this parade for a festival in this town. What's a good name for it?" And he just looks at me and goes, "How about Sawdust Days?" I'm like, yeah. Turns out there are a lot of sawdust days around, so we weren't infringing on any one town's celebration. But yeah, like that's just perfect. That sounds like exactly the kind of thing that a logging town would have started in the 40s or 50s or 60s or what have you. That harkens to that Americana feel that we've got in our game.
So we at first, before the game was released, we were very careful not to talk about some of the weirder examples of environmental storytelling that we have in the game. But now some of our streamers and YouTube artists have found it and have sort of publicized it to everybody else. And so I think that the cat is out of the bag about the Shaggy Jack cult. And I'm wondering if you can give people a little bit of background on where that came from, what that. Yeah.
Sure. One of the things that I felt we needed for this town, honestly, I'm taking credit for it here. I don't remember whether it was my idea or Kevin's idea, or Chris's, or one of the other many folks who worked in this, and I apologize if I'm stealing it there, was that the town needed a mascot. It needed a symbol. And obviously, if you're in the Northwest, it's the connections with sort of a Bigfoot type character are pretty obvious there. Why wouldn't a small rural woodsy town be a Bigfoot center? They're all over the place up here. So we created Shaggy Jack. Shaggy Jack is our Sasquatch in a lumberjack outfit. You see him all over town on signs. He gave his name to the espresso stand. There's some statues of him around. And somewhere along the line, one of the artists, and I can't remember who at this point, got the idea to make a rather more macabre version of the Shaggy Jack statue that frankly looked like something out of a horror movie, like The Hills Have Eyes or something. So we loved it, and we put this weird idol out in the middle of the woods, and it's very strange and creepy. I think we even added a different music cue that plays when you're around it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's hard to find. I literally haven't even stumbled across it. I've been playing in the map for hours and hours and hours. So it's hidden out there. But if you look carefully out in the woods, you can find a secret, looks like almost a shrine created around this strange idol. And there is, in fact, a special melee weapon that can only be found in that one location across all of our maps.
Yeah. Whenever we try to list all 10 heavy weapons and then we stop short with 9, that's why.
So there is a special heavy weapon that is hiding at this bizarre Shaggy Jack cult shrine that someone has set up out in the woods. Now, who knows? Is it just some teenagers having fun, doing it all ironically? Or was there something more macabre and mysterious there? You may never know.
Yeah, I like
the story.
I like that there's so many things in our environmental storytelling where really you could interpret it lots of different ways, and it's hard to really be sure. Like I like that sort of that open imaginative space that we kind of leave there for the player. I enjoy a lot of media that does the same thing, and it makes me happy that we do that.
We've definitely taken the approach that we're not focused, particularly on State of Decay 2, on telling a definitive story, but instead allowing the player to create their story through their actions and through their interpretations. There's lots of people who are very, very sure they know exactly how all of this outbreak came to be. Maybe one of them's right, but it doesn't matter because they're all right in their own heads.
All right, well, I think I am all full up, so I'm going to take this take this guy home.
Get a pretty yellow truck and drive it on home.
So I noticed a couple of people in the chat talking about the fact that they have exhausted their bounties. They were looking at my bounty list and almost kind of feeling a little bit jealous that I've still got bounties on this on my account left to complete. So would you say that we're done with bounties, or are there going to be bounties in the future?
Well, good news, we have more bounties yet to come. We have another content pack with 9 more bounties planned for April, about a month from now. For sort of obvious reasons, we weren't able to add a new content pack this month. We had our hands full just getting Juggernaut out the door. So we had to be satisfied with the new heavy weapons and other new things that went into that. But we're picking right up the very next month with another content pack. That'll have some more bounty challenges. On that note, we had announced that the April content pack would also see us cycling out one of the older packs, the Critical Response pack. We've decided to keep that pack around for another month. And that's for the very simple reason that there are lots and lots of people who are still just discovering this game and maybe haven't had enough time to experienced all the bounties that we've got. We want to give them another month for that older pack. There's a lot of nice gear in the Critical Response pack, so we're going to give it one more month, leave it in the game until May when the next content pack comes out, and we'll cycle it out at that point. So that'll mean there'll be 4 packs for players to choose from rather than the 3 that it would normally go down to.
So Robert Evans... Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to continue on the topic, but go ahead.
Oh, it's just Robert Evans asked, is this on PC? So the game is available on PC. In fact, it just became available on Steam in the Epic Store for the very first time. Right now, though, I am playing it on the Xbox. So for folks that are curious, I've got this. This is actually my original Xbox One. The fancy Xbox One X is over in the living room with the nicer television. But I sort of kidnapped my original one and brought it here to my PC to be my streaming box. So that's what we're playing on right now, an original Xbox One. So, if you see maybe it's a little bit slow to open the community screen, that's probably why. got some older hardware here.
I saw a question in the stream about retired packs and cycling in general. So I want to talk just a little bit about that, since that is another section of my responsibility here at the studio.
Yeah.
We decided a few months back that for a number of reasons, it was appropriate for us to start cycling the older content packs out. That lets the newer ones take a little bigger, more prominent position. It also prevents new players from being overwhelmed by choices. We think it's important for you to be able to focus on a more reasonable number of bounties at a time and get through those. And that lets each new pack feel more special when it comes out, get a little more attention. This is something, we didn't invent this. Like, lots of games use cycling new content, whether it's Magic the Gathering in their various tournament environments, other online games, and seasons with content that comes and goes. The content packs are that for us. And really, they represent an experiment for State of Decay. We didn't have anything like that until last fall. So this is our way of saying, hey, how does this work for our gamers? How do the players feel about this way of introducing new content? So far, we think it's working pretty well. We encourage you to provide feedback, whether you think that's true or not. But yeah, keeping the packs new and fresh. Oh, you can't drive there. That's crazy.
Oh, but I needed to kill a screamer with a vehicle, so.
I just got my 15th yesterday on that, I think. Yeah.
The bounties are shaping my behavior as designed.
Yep. So yeah, we're going to continue with the cycling plan. As I mentioned, we're going to keep critical response around for a little longer, and that also means going up from 3 packs to 4. So that should be plenty. That means we'll generally have like 35 to 40 bounties available at any one time. Obviously, there are enthusiastic players out there who will race through those in no time, I'm sure. But we feel like for the average middle-of-the-road player, that gives you lots of opportunities to work through the content at a reasonable pace without feeling completely overwhelmed.
Oh, whoa! I did not see that guy coming.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
Jeffrey, fight him off.
Yeah, so I didn't have.
There's no more coming. You're probably fine.
I didn't have any. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so it only took 3 grenades. That's not too bad. And yeah, that was one of the early plague hearts. So we haven't done a lot of plague hearts on this map yet. So I'm sure that's going to get much harder. I did not have any distractions. My usual method is to my MO is to drop a distraction outside the building first. Why am I searching? I have no room on my inventory. Drop a distraction outside the base first, the building first, and then go in. And while the zombies are on the distraction, just wail on the plague heart. But this time I didn't have any, and so I was kind of taking my life in my hands. But luckily, for some reason, Brant managed to show up with like 14 grenades. I don't know how he ended up with 14 grenades on my inventory, but I've got plenty, so I'll be fine there.
Can't argue with that.
Okay, got a new 8-slot backpack. That's good. I like to, things that I'm not going to use immediately is what I like to drop in there. Well, hey, I think I'm kind of obsessive about this. I have to take the last thing out of the plague heart inventory, or this gross thing is just going to be left behind forever. So there we go. Can't leave that there. That's just unsanitary. And right now, like, I already have a little bit of a thing in my head demanding that I be sanitary at all times. The current situation has not made that any weaker. So even in a game, like, I feel pretty strongly that I have to sanitize as well as possible. You know what? I think because I've got this Screamer bounty, before I go and take the next Plague Heart down, I think I'm going to run over here and try to tease some Screamers out of a building so I can run them over in this car.
Sounds good. I'm going to jump on a couple of questions
Yeah.
from the stream. We've got one question from Augie Green asking about plans to expand on the rivalry of Red Talon and the network. Hearing all the radio broadcasts without a way to intervene is such a tease. Yeah. Heartland was a good start to the story, but we crave more. That's great for me to hear. Jeffrey and I put a lot of work into those factions and their stories back in the day when we were crafting those. So it's nice to hear that there are folks enjoying them. Certainly the get him, yeah, boom. Red Talon Network, in a perfect world, would have had a even larger role in the second game, but that perfect world involves an awful lot more developers working on the game and a lot more money being spent on it. So we tried to make sure that they provided a backdrop story for the characters rather than defining the story that you told. They provided some viewpoints that you could either agree with or disagree with, depending on how you like to run your game. We have had them pop up from time to time. Red Talon shows up in Daybreak, and then we have some nods to their ongoing stories in Heartland as well. We'd love to continue to tell more of those stories. Time will tell whether that's part of State of Decay 2 or some mystery future of the game. We definitely, I know, I'm sure Jeffrey and I both have lots of ideas about how we'd like to see Network and Red Talon and other potential groups continue to show up in the future. Speaking of which, there's another nice Easter egg in the Providence Ridge map for the Echo Lab folks. If you're familiar with from their cool silent weapons that you may have seen in the game last year, or their presence in Heartland, there's a little look around for military facilities, and when you find one, look around a lot, and you might find a little secret door hidden away someplace.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about the work that we did on Red Talon and the network is the fact that I feel like a lot of two with one shot, haha. A lot of video games, really they pick sort of who the good guys and who the bad guys are, and they sort of make a lot of statements about this is what the right way to survive is, and this is what the wrong way to survive is. But we actually put a lot of work into trying to make sure that even though the Red Talon and the network have different personalities and different sort of pros and cons, we tried really hard not to choose which one is the good guys and which one is the bad guys. Now, because of sort of like the cultural background that our game exists in, the private military contractor, it can easily come across as being the intended bad guys. But that's one of the reasons why we created Nigel Meredith, the main voice on the radio from Red Talon, because if anybody represents sort of like the right attitude, sort of like of heroism and self-sacrifice and stuff like that, we felt like that character actually does a really good job of representing sort of the best of what a faction like Red Talon can be. So even though we feel like there would be factions like Red Talon that would survive in this scenario, we didn't want to represent them as being purely negative. Now they also have Sasquatch, who is a complete and utter psychopath. But we wanted to make sure we showed sort of the diversity of groups like that. That it's not just these people exist to be bad guys.
You take that back, sir. Sasquatch is an American hero.
That is certainly what he would say.
Do not stand for your namby-pamby words, your psychological mumbo-jumbo.
So you can tell that Andy wrote most of the dialogue for Sasquatch.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I know. And the performance by the actor who originally played Marcus Campbell for Sasquatch is just incredible. Drew Hobson.
Our vocal MVP of the State of Decay franchise.
Okay, well, I just completely clobbered the front end of my vehicle.
What difficulty level are you playing at, Jeffrey?
This is just standard. This is just me sucking on standard. So yeah.
That explains why your truck is still running.
Yeah, that's true. What difficulty level do you usually play on?
We've been playing. I play in Dread generally, and particularly when I play in multiplayer. In fact, we're thinking about going up to Nightmare next time we play multiplayer, because when there's 3 or 4 of us with well-kitted out characters, it's hard to find a real threat.
I just entered Hobsons Falls, which is named after Drew Hobson. Actually, that's worth mentioning. So since you worked on the consulting on the environmental storytelling was not the only thing you did with the map. Traditionally, I had a job in the map, which was naming all of the sites, but you took that over this time around. And so, what?
I did.
I'm curious what you thought of that experience.
It's fascinating and more than a little grueling. Like
Yeah.
the first 10 or 20 names you come up with, you research them and you come really evocative areas, and then you're like, oh, I've got to do this like 100 more times. And eventually you get to Shed with the Green Door.
Yes, exactly. We also like trying to keep our style consistent because I did the first 3 maps and then Andy did the 4th core map. But it was interesting because to keep our style consistent, like I had to actually write down the rules that I was using to make these names, but I hadn't actually figured the rules out myself. Like I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and so I had to write up a thing explaining how my thought process worked, so that when Andy did it, everything we did would match up. And they would all feel like they're legitimately part of the same game.
Documentation, people.
Oh, the gas is still there. Oh no,
feels stinky.
Now I've got gas inhalation injury. That's my own fault. I knew that was going to happen, and I was careless. I was reckless. Ooh, a mace. My son gave me a mace.
We played cards last night, and somebody found a stash of snacks and wondered out loud who would actually eat snacks they found inside of it. We determined that sort of thing that one survivor does not tell the rest of the team. Yeah, here's some Twinkies. No, I just found them on a shelf.
Yeah.
But Niffler likes the new map. Thank you, Owen. We do too. We're very proud of Providence Ridge. It represents a lot of learning for us over the last several maps that we've worked on. Got a lot of differences in it, a lot more verticality, you've probably noticed, particularly if you've had to drive uphill.
Yes. Yeah, one thing that we're
feral still, but not by much.
Yeah, one thing we are aware of is the fact that okay, good. He totally could have caught up with me.
Almost as bad as hitting it.
Yeah, so I was just staring in the rearview mirror, man. I just completely hit that rock. That's great. But yeah, we're aware of the fact that going up a hill in some of our vehicles is really rough. And we got actually Dan Mode is spending some time sort of working out possible solutions to that. No announcements. We're not going to reveal any secrets here or anything like that.
We've never had hills that steep on our road. So
exactly.
It's literally a new problem for us.
Man, this is just Feral Corner. I'm pretty sure the last time I went this way there was a feral. You get away. You get away right now.
He's still chasing you.
Yeah, because I just need to I just need to get enough distance that I can get out of my car. Come on.
Awesome Twitch dude found the little red balloon next to the sewer grate.
Oh, yes!
Wants a story about that. I mean...
The story was written by Stephen King. What
story do you think we're telling there?
Yeah, it's one of the most famous stories. One of the most famous horror stories ever.
I mean, we're not saying specifically the haunted clown monster is lurking in the sewers beneath Providence Ridge, but we're not saying it.
I'm pretty sure that there have been players who have encountered that and seen a clown zombie nearby, because we do have those.
That's true. That would be, hey man. If any of you can reproduce that in a video, yeah, we need to see that.
Man, since those clown zombies are like 1 in 10,000, the chances of that actually happening. I mean, the thing is, we get enough players.
Numbers, man.
We've got enough players playing the game. It certainly will happen at some point.
I'm saying
it's just going to be unpredictable. Okay, wait, that was not what I needed there. Okay, get rid of all this stuff.
Also wants to know the story of Andy Pims back from the original game. That's going back a ways.
Yeah.
Is there a story behind that guy? I remember he had a little bit of backstory that Sam told us in the original game, but I don't know that anybody went very deep writing a backstory for that character.
Yeah, I remember somebody on Twitter today was asking, hey, what happened to Andy Pym? Did Andy Pym survive State of Decay 1? And I'm like, Andy Pym didn't make it to the beginning of State of Decay 1.
Right. You only meet him in zombie form, right?
Yeah, so basically, we included him in Breakdown as a joke because he was clearly modeled exclusively to be a corpse. And so running around as Andy Pims was basically like being a zombie.
Yeah, he was pretty filthy.
So and he was just like pale and just really messed up. All right,
Ooh,
so,
Fred Garvin's asking about favorite Easter eggs. I'm hoping that Brant chimes in somewhere with a solution on that because he's put a ton of them into the game.
oh yeah.
But I'll speak to my favorite from Providence Ridge. There's a bit of a story. Many years ago, I was on a family trip to Forks, Washington. My great uncles lived there and worked in the logging industry for many years, the Rosemans. Uh, and so we packed up the car and drove across Western Washington and up the coast to Forks and stayed in a wonderful, quaint little motel. Perfectly nice, functional, wouldn't have been out of place anywhere else in the country, except there was a sign in the bathroom that says, "Please do not clean fish in bathtub." Now, I hold that this is a sign you put up after it has happened more than once.
Yes.
Right. And that as a kid who grew up in the suburbs, that was not a warning I was used to. And that has stuck with me for probably 20 years or more now. So early on, I approached Brant and said, we need a sign like that somewhere in this town. So sure enough, outside at least one of the public restrooms, you will find an implication to please, for the love of God, do not clean your fish in the bathroom. And really, I think that's something that we should all live by.
It's funny how just like a few people can just sort of mess things up for everyone else. It's like, I mean, obviously you weren't planning on cleaning a fish in a bathtub or doing anything untoward in that bathtub, and so it didn't really inconvenience you. But for instance, there was a when we were first getting our new office. At first, we did not have a freezer in our lunchroom, and I asked about that because my habit, it was to always, bring frozen dinners and have those for on my lunch break, so I would have time to stream afterwards instead of going out to a restaurant or something like that. And so I was like, hey, can I, can we have a freezer? And they're like, no, we can't have a freezer because someone had the experience where at the previous studio they had worked at, someone had brought an entire deer carcass. Cut to pieces. It was cut to pieces, so it wasn't like the deer was just sitting in there staring at you, but it was most of a deer, segmented, filling the company's freezer, filling the entire studio freezer. There we go, number 3
like
screamer. Like you do, right? And so they were like, okay, so I never want to have a freezer again because that was disgusting. And I was like, I feel like we could have a sign that says no entire deer.
Yeah. When society is at the level where you need to point things out to people, something else is broken down.
Yeah, so it feels like the people who put out that sign, they chose the better option because they also have the option of removing the bathtub from the bathroom. And when you're like, hey, how come there's no bathtub in my bathroom? They're like, well, because people clean fish in them. So
Fish guts.
You've lost your bathtub privileges, world.
Yep. Jeffrey, you got a shout out from Chum Fugler. That's a name you got to say carefully.
Yeah.
Personal work and content on your own page. Love the work and connection you guys have with the community. Well, thank you, Chum. We're happy to be here. We're happy you are all here. The community is why we get to keep doing this. You guys keep our lights on and our mortgages paid. So, thanks.
Yeah, and I feel like we might even get more out of it than you guys do. So we're really, however grateful you might be to any of us for making this game, we are more grateful to you for playing this game.
No, I'm more grateful. No way, you're more.
No. I'm the most grateful and the most humble. So
I thought that was Brant.
I got you there. There is a cloud of bloater farts in here, and so
Damon 3 has an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Quoting the Heartland story, meets a couple, Vic and Isaac, who talk about their daughter passing away. That was a sad story to write, but a nice addition to the game. The question is about, did all children not make it, or are you guys thinking of adding some more or less dead families into the game? The inclusion of children was actually a significant discussion we had early on in the design process of State of Decay 2. I remember being in a room I think you were there too.
Yeah, I was
Brant
there.
was there. Richard Fogey was there. Jeff Strain was there. Doug, our art director, was there. And we were talking about a lot of topics core to the franchise experience, from tone to language to how violent or gory should the game be. And one of the topics that came up was age range of survivors in the world. And we ultimately decided that while there are plenty of good post-apocalyptic stories that have been told that involve children, that didn't fit our tone. The idea of shooting little children zombies, or having to worry about kids in your community getting sick and dying and turning into zombies, that didn't mesh with the more hopeful tone that and cooperative world that we were trying to create. That's just a little too dark.
Yeah, and there's
for us.
also like we kind of we throw some stakes into the ground about like how free you're going to be, how interactive the world is going to be, how little control we're going to put over your behavior, and say a game like, for instance, what's it called? This War of Mine. They have an expansion that is all about adding kids to the game. But they're also a game where they exert a lot of tight control over who is allowed to leave the house, who can engage in violent acts, who can be the victims of violent acts, and stuff like that. And they're very careful about that so that they can include children in their stories without depicting really horrific behavior towards children. And so unfortunately in our game, we've sort of thrown down these stakes where anyone can die. Anyone can wander anywhere. Zombies can get into your base. All kinds of bad things can happen that you don't have a lot of control over, and that we don't have a lot of control over. And because of that, like if we felt like if we couldn't really tightly control what we depict happening to children, it felt like we had a responsibility not to do it at all. Like if we can do it right and well and really make sure we're handling it sensitively and telling the right kinds of stories, and maybe even tapping into some of those anxieties and like some a parent's worst fear and stuff like that. If we could do it well and have it be a good experience reliably, then it might be worth doing. But because we knew that this game is so much about not exerting that kind of control, giving players a lot of freedom and letting the game be random and unpredictable, we weren't going to be able to have that kind of control to make it play well. And so we would much rather not do something than do it in a way that really hurts.
Really poorly and distastefully, yeah. Apologies, I'm distracted. It is hailing very hard here right now.
What? Really?
Be able to hear it through the mic.
No, I can't hear it at all.
I am looking out my south-facing windows, and so are the cats. They're very, very concerned. Oh yeah, I've got all three cats in here looking out the windows. Let me see if I can get them.
Wow.
Kitty's milling around.
We have not felt the hail yet, so I'm hoping the hail waits about 22 minutes to get here, because as soon as it starts hailing, the kids are coming back inside the house, and I think that's going to be noisier than the hail.
It's a nice one coming down over here. Classic Seattle weather. It is sunny and hailing.
Yeah, that is completely our brand. So let's see here. So in about 5-6 minutes, I think we'll take a break to look at some community spotlight stuff, things that we've seen on social media from people who are playing the Juggernaut Edition. But I think I probably have time to take out one more Plague Heart before we do that.
Let's do it. Can you do it with your bare hands?
I doubt it. I could certainly try. I think I've got a heavy weapon and a smoke bomb. So maybe if I set the smoke bomb off near me, maybe I can take it out with the heavy weapon. We can see. I'll try it, and if it starts really super not working, I'm going to get out there and throw grenades in the window and nuke it from orbit.
Taylor asks about Vista View as a new location. Vista View is it's a neighborhood in the town. In fact, I think you just passed a sign for it.
Oh, probably did.
It is the new construction area of the map. It represents sort of the more modern world infringing on this old town, right? It's going to be this development of big, expensive, 3-bedroom houses infringing on this small rural community. So that's our commentary on old world and new world coming in contact with one another.
Yeah, it feels a lot like Back to the Neighborhood in Back to the Future. And it is not the only Back to the Future reference we have in our game. We actually, so somebody on Twitter pointed out that they had they were starting a new community for the Juggernaut edition. And no, by the way, I don't think I'm going to be doing this thing with my bare hands.
Well, zombies. Well, you're in trouble.
But anyway, they were like, I want to get characters with silly names, and so they got as many weird Easter eggy type names as they could. And one of them was Marty McFly. In fact, they had a woman named Marty McFly. And so I was like, okay, you have to go and get. Oh, okay, that is not working. You have to go and get the new 88 miles per hour achievement with that character, and so they pledged to do that. And so they've got so they're gonna go get a sports car, and they're gonna go at top speed wearing a puffy vest with that character, so they can get the 88 miles per hour achievement with Marty McFly. I was very, very pleased. Like, all of my Easter egg dreams came together at once. Okay, so I was not able to do that the way that I said I would. Now, if I had had a distraction, I probably could have. There's a lot of players out there, people who watch our stream, who play on Nightmare regularly, who looked at that and were like, that was complete weak sauce. But this is what, you don't, I wasn't hired because I was good at playing games. I was hired because I could design games. And so those are two very, very different skills. But we've got a lot of folks around the studio who are very good at their jobs, who are like, please don't make me shoot a zombie in the head. I cannot get the crosshair over the zombie. But that's fine, because it takes people with a lot of different experiences to be able to make this game. Some people, in fact, I saw an article recently that I really loved that compared our game to Animal Crossing, and that said that we're basically Animal Crossing with zombies, and we love that comparison because so many of us, half the studio is obsessed with the new Animal Crossing right now, because that's kind of what it takes, like making a game that is that sort of represents so many different diverse styles of play as State of Decay means you have to bring in a lot of people who play a lot of different games. So some people, like me, are binging Doom Eternal right now and are going crazy at the demon killing action. But there's some people who are just as going just as crazy about Animal Crossing, which takes very different moment to moment skills from playing State of Decay 2, but still also has a lot in common about community building and getting to know characters, living in a world that's got a lot of random elements to it, and feeling, sort of valuing what you discover in your world next to what somebody else discovers in theirs. Like, so many of those experiences are either in State of Decay or could be, could really contribute really well to State of Decay. That I'm glad that we've got, so many different kinds of people with different kinds of tastes working at our studio with us on this game. So now that I'm back, I feel like we should take a little bit of a break to look at Community Spotlight. Ready for that, Andy?
Let's do that.
All right, so I'm going to pause this game, and we're going to go
hail's
into...
done. Sun's out.
Oh, what? What'd you say? Oh, the sun's out? Hail's gone?
Hail's done. Yeah, nice 2-minute hailstorm.
Perfect.
Seattle for you.
All right, so Community Spotlight. I need to pop open my notes here so that I remember who did what. Okay, so we're going to start with Mark Delaney. So Mark Delaney just started a new Nightmare playthrough. He says, I'm on the second mission, and it's going about as well as I could hope. This game is amazing in its relentlessness. So he's just started in Nightmare. I don't know, this might be his first Nightmare game, I'm really not sure. But he's just already surrounded by zombies and stranded on the top of a car. And so you just shared, that's a State of Decay experience for you right there. We also have another one from showing you being overwhelmed. This is by jdarbo123 on Reddit. And what he said was, this is the last time I used the recon radio command. Ignorance was bliss.
Yeah, my goodness. That's a lot of zombies.
Yeah, I love the that time when you find one rat dropping in your house and you're like, this is probably not the only one. Or you find one spider and you're like, how many spiders do I live with? Sometimes you just don't want to know the answer to that question, right? The next one here, so we got a couple of people who were sharing sort of the beauty of the new map and of State of Decay. So this is Ian Allen. He said, this is a fleeting moment of peace. And actually, I don't actually know which map this is in. Is this Providence Ridge? Because this looks like it's one of the... He deliberately went out and found a wilderness area, which means it doesn't have any of the landmark buildings that I know. I think that the fog makes me think that it's Providence Ridge.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he wanted to share this little moment of peace that he had when he was not getting mauled by zombies. And then we've got Big Lou. Big Lou loves to share videos and shots
Nice
on Twitter. Yeah, this is really, really gorgeous. This is by Big Lou 521. He says, I just can't stop admiring the beautiful new lighting with the Juggernaut Edition. It's a wonder I haven't been mauled by ferals yet. So he's like standing there transfixed, and then a feral's going to jump out of right field.
Right.
And just grab it.
Lighting got a big pass in the Juggernaut Edition. We put a lot of work into improving that, not just for Providence Ridge, but across the board for all three of the other main maps. If you're exploring in them, you should be able to tell very significant visual differences between those three maps based on their lighting. Our artists put a lot of work into that. It really shows.
When Matt Heiniger was on, he showed specifically here. Big Lou is demonstrating the volumetric lighting. The volumetric fog, which allows us to get these procedural god rays streaming through the trees. So I really appreciate Big Lou sort of highlighting that for us, because this is one of the best new things from the Juggernaut Edition. You could not get this shot in before the Juggernaut Edition because we didn't have the volumetric fog. Big Lou also shared this image and says, "Am I the only one who stops to watch sunsets in a zombie game?" So this, I think, is from the opening cinematic, but there are some lovely skies. So so that's Big Lou. And then one of my favorite people in our community on Twitter is Oddly Lemony. Oddly Lemony every day is sharing crazy screenshots of this caliber on Twitter. If you want to follow anyone in our community to get awesome State of Decay 2 visuals, Oddly Lemony is a person to follow. So she's awesome. And this right here, the way that she captioned this, she said she did not stick the landing. So hitting a zombie with it looks like she just has a machete. That's not even a heavy weapon. She just flipped that zombie over, which is great. And another thing she's done too is she actually created she cut out and created an empty version of our character panel so that she used it to make her own Twitter banner as she built herself as a character in State of Decay, and then she made that available free to use for anybody. So if you go and follow Oddly Lemony on Twitter, you can find that. It's really cool.
It's nice that she's cheerful.
Yes, yeah. So she automatically was cheerful, and she gave herself a bunch of traits. I forgot. I need to go look it up. But she gave herself a bunch of traits that were appropriate to her, and it was good. The next one is a video. This one is by Third Rate Gaming, and it's this is basically a shout out to our audio team. The caption for this was "Love this sound effect, squish, laughing my ass off." So I've just got this on repeat.
I'm seeing the video. I don't actually hear the audio. So
oh, that's true. Well, then I will quit boring you, Andy. But our next one here, this is from Verdant SF on Reddit. They labeled this "Ethan and Moose, knock them down, take them out," and they're actually using the strategy that Brant recommended on the stream for using heavy weapons. So sorry, this is Verdant SF. So right here, they have got one character with a heavy weapon and the other character with a knife. And the heavy weapon guy is just knocking guys down, and the knife guy is killing them on the ground.
Nice cooperation.
Yeah, no, this is exactly the tactics we hope that people would use. And that is it. That is our community spotlight. What do we call that? Community spotlight. So let me put this back. Here we go. It takes me a second sometimes. So that was Community Spotlight. So thank you so much for sharing that stuff.
Amazingly creative.
Yeah, one of our favorite things to do is to follow a bunch of our community on Twitter, keep track of the subreddit about State of Decay, and see some of the stuff that you folks come up with. Because this game is so procedurally driven and everything's got, it's like randomness and AI and stuff like that, we can't predict all the things that are going to happen in the game. And so we love seeing you folks discover things. In fact, one of my favorite things lately is people keep posting the funny nicknames that their characters get, and that was one of my areas of the game. So every time I see somebody post a character with a nickname that they like, it makes me happy. In fact, what was the oh yeah, so somebody was showing off they had dressed all of their community identically as like in the military tactical gear, and they just had a bunch of normal names, but their leader was named Butter Truck, and somebody in the responded to them was like, oh, are you able to edit their names? You were able to change their names? Like, how do I change the names of my characters? And I got to go in there and say, nope, that's a real name in the game. Buttertruck is a name you can have. Turns out he was gluttonous, and so he has the name Buttertruck because he eats all the butter.
I have to ask, do you actually know somebody with a nickname Buttertruck?
No,
or did you come up with that one?
I'm pretty sure I was just sitting there on the gluttonous trait, wondering, just trying to think of names for somebody who just eats all the food in the cabinet, and Buttertruck just occurred to me in my head, and throw it down there. So yeah, no, I don't know anyone named Buttertruck. A lot of the nicknames do come from people that people either people that I know or people that members of the lab knew. In fact, I put out a big call for people to suggest nicknames that were derived from friends and family members, because people like to have their names in the game. In fact, I recently went through a little stint of putting a few people like Oddly Lemony, for instance, in the April update. There will be a 1 in a zillion chance that you'll get Oddly Lemony's name as a character in your community.
Hey, Jeffrey, we've got a question here from the fans about character generation. This is probably one that you might be able to respond to. K9mm is asking about the process of balancing survivors. The idea that you can fish for survivors with no negative quirks, and that our survivors aren't necessarily all balanced with each other.
That is true. Like, we didn't... So... I've actually had, if there's any regrets that I have about our character system, it is the fact that we didn't put more effort into balancing. So the theory that we went with as we were sort of designing the character system was that we wanted there to be a wide variety of characters, and that we wanted to create situations where, say, you've got a character who has, say, a name or a face or an outfit or something that you really like, but they've got negative traits, and sort of out of love you take them in and you sort of adopt them because it's sort of fun to take care of a lost puppy. Or you could get into a situation where there's a character who is the only doctor you have found. You've been searching for doctors for ages. You cannot find a doctor. And then you find one, and he's a complete jerk. But you're like, but I have to have this doctor. I've got no choice. My people need a doctor. And so you end up in sort of like a Dr. House situation where you got a character who's brilliant, but a complete jerk and horrible to live with. But that's just sort of, you end up having to make that trade-off. And we thought that those choices would be interesting for players. And so we basically sort of allowed a really chaotic system where characters could be bad, they could be good, they could have a mix of extremely good and bad traits. And we figured that would sort of lead to a lot of those moments. But what kind of turned out was it actually kind of turned into a little bit more of almost like a loot box, where players would feel like, the way to succeed in this game is to have the best possible characters, and so they would end up playing kind of character roulette or something like. And you basically that's not really how roulette works, but they would just sort of roll random characters, examine random characters, recruit random characters, and then just keep rejecting all the ones who had any negative traits until they got a character who had all positives, and sometimes a character with the best positives. Big increases to health and stamina are broadly considered to be some of the best positives in the game, and people will put a lot of effort into getting a character who has that the kind of thing. And so what you ended up with, we were going for chaos and story and adorableness, but what we ended up with was a lot of min-maxing. And that's fine, it is up to players how they play the game. Personally, I tend to like to adopt a lot of lost puppies who don't really have a lot to offer and see if I can survive that way. And so I'm glad that the game supports that, but it does feel like the incentives are all lined up around trying to get perfect characters. And so so right now, I definitely, we can't make any promises about what future games are going to do. And so don't take anything I say here as an indication of where State of Decay 2 is, or the whole State of Decay franchise is going in the future, because I genuinely don't know. But the thing that it makes me want to do is, in some future iteration of the game, I would love to put more effort into sort of actually guaranteeing that characters have interesting trade-offs. What if there was a version of the game where every character had a weakness, and therefore you could not expect to get a perfect character. And then that would mean that you would, that instead of just rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling until you got a perfect character, you would maybe stop and accept the first or second character that you got, because that there's going to be, because there are no perfect people, it's better to live with the characters you have, and that thematically fits a lot better with sort of the story, the sort of the moral that we want our game to have, which is that we don't think that people are generally superheroes. We think that everybody has got strengths and weaknesses, and that community building isn't about being extremely picky with your community until you get just exactly the right kind of people. Like, that's almost the opposite of thematically what we would want the game to say. We would much rather, I think, have a game that says, everyone has value and everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and the point, a really good leader of a community is someone who can find those strengths and weaknesses and make the best of them. So again, that is not any kind of promise about the way State of Decay is going to go in the future. That's just my thoughts in this moment about it. But hopefully that'll be interesting and useful.
The biggest secret, I think, about making games, or frankly designing anything at all, that one has to learn after you've been doing this for a little while, is that everything we do is a best guess. We're making all this up as we go. We use precedent and to help guide us, but every project you work on is different in some ways from everything you've done before, and you're always taking your best shot at, like, well, I think this will work the way I want it to. Yeah. And if you're really good at your job, you're right often.
But nobody's right every single time,
and
right?
Wrong frequently.
Yeah, we've been trying to get sort of get a little better on average. We've actually hired a really good analytics person. Sarah has been really, really great. Since we brought her on while we were starting to work on the Juggernaut edition, and her job is basically to keep track of all of the things we know that players are doing in our game and draw insights from it to help us understand, not just what our intentions with the game are, but also what the outcomes are. Because you make decisions with an intention in mind. You have an expectation of how you think it's going to go, but reality always surprises you. And knowing what your decisions, what the actual outcomes of your decisions are, can help you make so much better decisions. So, yeah, so she's a really valuable addition to the team.
All right, Jeffrey, we are almost out of time here.
Yes, I think so. I'm going to try. Oh no! No! Stop it! Oh, I'm going to try to not die. There we go. Okay, this is going very badly for me.
Sorry, any of you got your eardrums blown out right there.
Sorry, yeah, it might have been a little bit loud. I wonder, can I take this thing out before we go? Because I missed with 2 entire grenades. Probably not.
I don't like your chances, man.
No, I do not like my chances either. You know what? I think I'm going to bail.
I don't like your chances of getting out of here.
I'm going to bail. I am so injured right now. Where did I leave my car?
Good.
I have this problem in real life. I can never remember where I parked my car. Okay,
yeah, I think it's
instead
time
of
to go.
Yeah, instead of ending with a
locals are not friendly here. These parts.
Instead of ending with a heroic victory, I think I'm going to end with a daring escape. Where do I live? I live here. Oh my gosh, there's zombies on me. Okay. We're gonna get out of here, and we're gonna bail on this stream as well in just a second. So, Andy, I really appreciate you coming here. Especially under the strange circumstances we live under, and making this. Oh, look, another screamer, squirrel. Okay, anyway, filling this stream with interesting commentary in the game, and just for everything you've done in the game. I really appreciate you being here.
Always glad to be here. Always enjoyable time, Jeffrey. Thanks to everybody who spent this last hour listening to us and watching us be silly. We appreciate your time. We know you could be watching other streams, and it's important that you chose ours. I don't know what it says about you or about us, but let's just not delve into that too deeply.
Okay, well, I have made it home. Perfect timing. We are about done. So just a quick last goodbye from Andy Collins.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe out there.
And a goodbye from me. We're so glad that you all are here. We love you, and we couldn't do this without you. So with that, we're going to get out of here. Oh, yeah. Brant says hi or goodbye. I don't know what Brant says. Next week, we'll do something else. Probably from our houses. It's going to be awesome. And then we got 20 seconds of this. Click on some links, maybe. I don't know. If you're watching on YouTube. That's great.